everybody back to round 2 of our photo show from January. This time, hopefully, you'll get the audio as well as the visual. As I started out the program the last time, assuming some of these people may join us again on a YouTube tape recording, there was Marcia from Tucson, Arizona, Kathy from Palmetto, Florida, Chris from Punta Gorda, Debbie from Glenpool, Oklahoma, Steve from Cocoa Beach, Florida, Steve from Detroit, Michigan, Joanne from Green Bay, Wisconsin, Steve from Appleton, Wisconsin, Karen from Randolph, Wisconsin, Diane from Muskego, Carol from Lawrence, Wisconsin, Nancy from Ashwaubenon, Robin from Lafayette, California, Dawn from Bonita Springs, Florida, Tom from Bonita Springs, Florida, Mary from Houston, Texas, Tim from Merced, California, Winnie from Fort Benning, Georgia, and John from Beaufort, South Carolina, in addition to a large number of other people of 75 that joined us virtually the last time, and unfortunately we didn't have the audio. We're going to start the program, Joe and I, tonight, with a little tribute to the West Pier school system. We're going to do a little bit of the history of the West Pier schools. In 1848, Wisconsin became a state. All towns where school was taught for 3 months or more were eligible for their share of the state school fund. The town of Lawrence, named after Amos Lawrence, the founder of Lawrence University, was organized at a time which included a lot of present-day West Pier. A little side note, West Pier was actually considered as the site for what became Lawrence University. Initially, teachers went house to house, teaching first religion in the largely Catholic community and then the ABCs. Because of time lapses between visits to the homes, they invariably had to start all over when the teacher finally came back. The old Pelagore log house at the corner of 3rd and Grant was the very first schoolhouse. And Joe, if you can kind of zoom in a little bit and pull the picture down, because it's at the site pretty much of the present St. Joseph's Church. Nope. Pull down right up there. So that 3rd and Grant Street is where the first schoolhouse. It was a log house.
Grant and this is 3rd.
Yep. It was inside of there. We actually did some checking and found out that it's pretty much where the St. Joseph Church is. It had very primitive furnishings. For the 2 years of its existence, there were 2 3-month terms of schooling. As you can imagine, it was not very successful as a school model. Mr. Godfrey Miller was moved to improve the situation and permitted his workshop to be used for the 3-month term during the summer months. His workshop was at the end of Hart's Gravel Road, which I know a lot of old-time people from the west side know quite well, and a lot of the younger people would know as Shearing Road. The present on your screen, Joe has pulled up approximately where the workshop was. You got to zoom in. Let's see here. Oops. You got to go full screen, Joe, because you kind of. Boom. Okay. So we got to take the lower road down here. Come down closer to the river here, Joe. Down right there. There's. Oop. Come down there. So, you're good there. Now with your hand, nope. Pull it back up. Down below here, on the right near the bottom. Don't come to your right, right there. That little, oop, come down now. Right, oop, no, pull it back up. This is hard. You see where it says max shearing?
Yep.
Go down diagonally just slightly, closer to the river. There's that building there. No, don't need to move it. Just move that hand. Come down with your hand. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Now go to your left, right there. Oop, down just a touch. There, right there. That right there took a little bit of a while, but that's Godfrey Miller's property, and that was what he allowed. It was his workshop, and he permitted his workshop to be used for the 3-month term during the summer month. This was used for a period of 7 years. In 1858, Max Shearing donated land for the purpose of building a dedicated school, which was just kitty corner. So actually, if you just go where you were with your hand, okay, kitty corner, right, diagonally to the right, right across the street, right in there. right in that area. Come down a little bit further with your hand. It was literally kitty corner. You don't need to pull it down though. Just move your hand. There, right there. Oop, no, whoop, right there. So it was pretty much kitty corner. He donated land for the purpose of building a dedicated school. They built a 24-foot by 30-foot building at that site. As the years went on, Mr. Shearing, who had a keen interest in the school, was a proponent of year-round school because that's the way they did it in Germany. And as a result, the school year was lengthened. From 1850 to 1859, the school term was 3 months. 1860 to 64, 6 months. 1865 to 67, they went 9 months. And in 1868, they went 12 months of school, less 1 week. Realizing that was too much, by 1869, they went back to 11 months. And then 1870, they reverted back to 9 months. If you go back to the last picture again, Joe, just so people can get an idea where we are, there was concern over the distance the little children had to travel from the town of Nicolet to school. In 1864, the railroad came to town, leading to a boom of business and population growth. Lawton town was platted out at this time. Joseph Lawton sold land to the school district for the purpose of building a school. Now you can move ahead. There we go. In 1865, the new school opened at the corner of Oak and 8th at the site of the present Lawton Park. And you can see Joe's pointing that out there now. The interesting thing is that's no longer 8th Street. That's what made it difficult when we were doing research, because 8th Street is up by CVS, where that is now. But back in the day, that was 8th Street. And essentially, if you use your hand, Joe, to show them, the arrow to show them where the black and tan is, right down below here. This is Main Street down here. Yeah, right there. That's where I know it as the black and tan, Johnny's Polish Bar, or in my youth, I thought it was Johnny's Polish Bar, but I found out it was actually his Polish Bar. But you would turn right there to go to the fairgrounds, and then that quick left on Oak Street, that is Lawton Park right there, and that's where that school building was built at that time. Nicolet continued its growth into the 1870s, and in 1874, a new school was built at the site of the present Wilson Park. At this time, 1874, the River Road School out on what is now Shearing Road was discontinued. There is a picture of the new school building in 1874, which again is the site of the present Wilson Park. In fact, if you go to Wilson Park now, on the far east end of that campus that was there, if you kick up the dirt enough, you'll actually get to the foundation of this building. 3 years after it opened, in 1877, high school studies were taken up. The first graduating class of 1880 had 2 graduates. In 1884, the high school course was extended to 4 years, and as a result, there were no graduates that year. In 1883, the town of Nicolet, and by the way, this would have been Nicolet High School then, as a school, the town of Nicolet was incorporated as a city, and by 1887, they changed their name to West Pier. In the late 1870s and through the 1880s, night school was actually held at the Lawton Town School for the boys who worked at the factories in town. So they would trudge over to the Lawton Town School. So if you back up one page, whoop, wrong way, because it would have been the other one. There we go. They would have gone to that school for night school. So you would have had kids, a lot of them under 18 years old, probably between the age of 13 and 17, that would work during the day, and then they would come from the different mills that were in town and do their night schooling there. In 1884, St. Boniface opened its first school. In 1890, De Pere and West De Pere consolidated as one city. The West De Pere School District became District Number 2 of De Pere. As far back as then, there have been at least 6 attempts to consolidate the schools, and all obviously failed. On occasion, the referendum would pass in the city by a small margin, but would be overwhelmingly defeated in the rural parts of each district. In 1891, the Shattuck and Babcock paper mill, which most of us remember as Nicolet paper, In 1891, they opened. It was a huge boost to Pier, particularly the west side. The new mill, coupled with many East Siders open and rolling in the West Side School, led to the enlargement of the school building at Wilson Park. So they actually did an addition. So you got to go backwards again. Backwards couple, there we go. So this original 1874 building had additions added on to it to accommodate the growth in the 1890s. In 1901, the old Lawton Town School was sold and moved 1 block west and became a tenement house. So if you go back to the map, Joe, right there. So they essentially picked that building up and moved it 1 block to the left. And they put it, got to go across the street. They put it over there. In fact, if you take the corner right now on your way to the fairgrounds, there's a large apartment building there at this time with the railroad tracks behind it. That's where they moved that that old school and became a boarding house or tenement house back in the day. I believe a Mr. Jansen, contractor, he indicated to me a number of years ago that he's the one that tore it down and then built the apartment buildings that are presently at that site. We have no pictures at this time of that original school building, which to me is amazing that nobody took a shot outside of there. Or if we do have it, we don't know we have it. So obviously if anybody out there happens to have any pictures of that, it would be great. The new brick Lawton Town School was built between Main and Oak Street on the site of what a lot of us remember as Lincoln School. This was the new building that was built in 1901. By 1906, there had been a total of 175 high school graduates since 1980. So over the course of 26 years, 175 graduated from Nicolet High School or West Pier High School. The largest class was the class of 1905 with its 14 graduates. The smallest class was that of 1889 with Helen Baldwin as the only graduate. All the information I've shared with you tonight was compiled by West Pier High School senior Nellie Hawks, who did the research as a term paper and presented it as her graduation speech on June 1st, 1906. It was an amazing compilation of information that has proved to be very valuable for us today. In closing of her graduation speech, she said the following: "Such is the past of our school district. The present, like an open book, lies ever before us. The future no man can read, but can only hope that, like the past, it will be rich in accomplishment." It was quite a document that she put together. So that's the early history of the West Pier school system. And now I believe we move on. By the way, as we're looking to move on to the next little tidbit, for those that are wondering, West Pier became the Black Phantoms in 1929. The team voted on it, and they decided that would be their moniker. At some point in the 70s, the 1970s, they dropped the black off the Phantoms, and of course today they're just known as the Phantoms. The colors that they chose in 1929 were black and orange. The article I read about it indicated that the colors prior to that were black and yellow, although I did find an article from 1926 where they referred to as the black and orange. So a little confusion there. I'm sorry, in 1929 when they became the Black Phantoms, they actually went with black and white for their colors. They had been the black and yellow prior to that, but there was also references to black and orange. Get that mic a little closer to you so that you can hear you.
Hello.
There you go.
We're going to take a look at in and around West Pier over the years. An early shot that we had was done in reverse. This was originally a photograph and taken by
Thomas Bowring.
Yeah, Thomas Bowring, and it was turned into a pen and ink drawing. It shows West Pier in July of 1876. You can see some landmarks. Here's is that St. Joe's?
Yep, that's St. Joseph's Church. And I think that would be before it burned, right?
Yeah.
That was the original St. Joseph's Church.
This is the sash and door factory here.
Yep, on the left.
Later, the property was sold to the Pier School Board, West Pier, and it became the new Nicolet High of 1923.
then back, there you go, right there, that he's zooming in on there, that is the West Pier High School where the President Wilson Park is. Now you can zoom back out so they can't see all that pixels there. There you go.
Over here you can see, what is this?
That's just, I think that's Main Street that you see those buildings running across.
This factory,
to the
this
left.
Nicolet sawmill, I think?
That's Colette Sawmill on the right, on the far right.
Yeah.
Zoom back out a little bit. There, just a touch more. So they kind of get a better perspective. There you go. That just looks better. And you can see the bridge on the left.
Yeah.
By the way, just pointing out that Joe had the idea to, we've never done this before, but we are doing an all West Pier show tonight.
Right. This is a familiar building in West Pier. It was built in 1913. It has changed hands several times. I think those guys are still up there, I'm not sure. But it became at one point the El Toro Mexican restaurant.
That helps you to reference it.
This is the
Is this Max
E.M. Franck.
Franck or France? Yeah.
Max France's grandfather. The city meat market.
Prominent business owners on the west side.
Mm-hmm. And a great historian.
Yes.
This is the same market. I think it's the same place a couple
Yeah.
of years later, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can
Post
see the double
office.
doors. You see the double doors there, right?
Post office was next door.
A few of locals gathering outside.
Locals here. This gentleman had a broken leg, but it didn't stop him from smoking cigars.
A very early bicycle.
Yeah.
And this is the site of the building, probably, would you say, probably the 1950s?
I think so, yeah.
Somewhere in that range, but
And
you
then
still
it
have the double
became
doors.
Jacob's Food Market?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
It's the inside of the Max France Meat Market. Obviously, everybody is, the guy's on the phone calling the customers, telling them their Christmas goose is in.
It's a famous landmark of West Pier. It was called Jansen's, but everybody in the know referred to it as Buck's.
Buck's Bar.
Buck's Bar.
This was right behind St. Boniface Church.
Yep.
There's presently a gas station, mobile gas station on that
Yeah.
site. Joe Secor had it for a while.
Yep. Favorite hangout of many St. Norbert students. This is another shot of it. I think it was a Rars Tavern.
Yes, yeah, the different breweries had taverns. It would have been the only beer they would have had in there.
Right.
And there's gentlemen are standing right out in front of the, pretty much in front of the building.
They're waiting for the Pabst truck, I think.
I think, right? He had to wait a long time. There's a memory for some folks. The old Nicolet Theater.
Ultimately owned by the Vincent family, and it was right next door to the Pearl.
An interesting story with that is that Mr. Edward Vincent had actually come from, I believe, Manitowoc, where he managed a theater there, at the behest of the, what was the family that had the Pearl? Speaker. The Speaker family. He was brought in by the Speaker family, who owned the Pearl on the west side and the Majestic on the east side. He was brought in to manage the Pearl Theater. And after a couple of years, he decided to branch out on his own, bought the building just to the west of there, adjacent to it, and rebuilt it as the Nicolet Theater. And then eventually the Vincent family also opened up a theater on the east side, which today is the only surviving theater of the 4 that were in operation at one time.
This building still stands. You can note that it retains the peak there.
Yep. I think it's Bubba Louie's or something like that.
Something
or
like
it's
that.
Bubba
They play
Louie's.
volleyball.
Yes. And here's the site, obviously looking at Nicolet paper, and in the lower right-hand corner, you can see what became the new Nicolet High School, which opened in 1923. And it was at that point that the school building at the President Wilson Park site was torn down. Back in those days when they tore it down, all the contents pretty much went into the basement, and so I'm sure if we did an excavation there, we'd have quite an archaeological dig.
This is probably very close to 1923 because the plantings all over the grounds of the school seem pretty new.
Very much so. Yeah, so you're right, it is probably 1923. If you zoom back out a little bit,
Yeah.
I think you can see that was a car dealership there, that Quonset hut type of a look there. Yeah.
It was a Nash dealership.
Yeah, that was the Nash dealership. And then there's a barn down there, which might have been the France family barn. So they would have had cattle probably in there, which they would have then butchered for, well, not butchered, well, yeah, probably. That would have
You
been.
can also date the photo by this truck, which bears a great resemblance to the truck that Elliot Ness used to bust open the breweries that he was raiding.
Pier didn't have any alcohol during Prohibition, so of course we never had to worry.
This is a landmark.
Fond memories there. The Nicolet Dairy Bar. And then you see the bowling alley. Was the bowling alley, was that where Aggie Otis's bar was or not? Is that where Nicky's is?
Nicky's, it might be.
Yeah, and you can see the Ace High is the next building down.
Yeah, this isn't that old. This is a 58 Buick, I think.
So early 60s maybe?
Yeah, this is a early 60s Chevy. This is Giver's Barber Shop.
Yeah, the Gilford family thought they were there since the beginning, right?
Giver, well, it was a barber shop, but it wasn't Giver's
Right.
at the beginning. It was Zabrowski's.
Zambrowski, that's
Yeah.
right.
This is Bicentennial Parade in 1976.
You can see the what would have been probably Salati's Bakery,
Yep.
and possibly Rainier's Bakery,
Yeah.
and there's some more West Siders sitting up on the roof
Yeah.
over at the bakery, watching the parade.
I never saw a guy marching with a drum corps with his arms crossed. I mean, that's kind of unusual shot.
Is that building on the left there? Is that the one that's 1913? No.
I don't.
Kind of looks like it because if you look at the
Could be.
scroll backwards real fast.
We could check that out. The window configuration.
I think it is. Sorry for the. There it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is, yeah, because you got the same corner piece. So somebody came along, whoever probably did the El Toro, and put the windows back in
Yeah.
because they had.
Where are
We'll
we
get
here?
there. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
But,
So they had bricked that all in, and now of course that's all taken back out,
yeah.
and they have windows back in there again.
Yeah. 10 years from now, they'll put the bricks back.
You're right.
This is the another shot of the Centennial Parade.
1976.
Very popular Derek's A&W
Yep.
in the back.
And then Joe Secor's gas station there, and I don't know if Joe had it in 76 or if Larry Vandehei had it.
Either one, yeah.
This is a shot we always have fun with, asking people that haven't seen it before. Now I think a lot of you viewing this have probably already seen this, wondering where it is. But Joe's arrow right now is pointing. In fact, if you zoom in, there you go. That's the Lawton Town School, which is the site of the present Lincoln School. And in the foreground, you can see a trolley car, which is coming in on the trolley tracks from Green Bay. And then it would have turned left and came down the main street there on there. Behind those tracks are the actual railroad tracks. So the trolley tracks kind of ran somewhat parallel to the train tracks that were there. And then in the front left corner is where the Black and Tan ended up being. And the beauty parlor is a couple doors over. In fact, a few doors over, because I think they tore that down. And River City Ice is in there now somewhere on the right.
Yeah.
And then in the foreground is where the Kidney Boat manufacturing place ended up going.
Which later became Gross Motors.
Gross Motors, which then became Bernie Canny and became Yinneman Dorsch.
I think this photo was taken atop the water tower on the Root Piper's garage lot.
Yes, I think you're right. It's a great shot. Zoom back, go back to one more time. I just thought of something there. Ooh, Yeah, we don't quite get a chance to see that old schoolhouse building. I was just thinking about that, the one that they moved. So I'm not sure what road that is on the right there, because they moved that tenement.
Yeah, that would have been right about here.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's.
I think.
Yeah, I was trying to think where that would be. Anyway, another day.
The Nicolet Mill.
Yeah, this is taken from top of Boyle.
Main Hall.
Main Hall, top of Main Hall, that's right.
And before the new West Pier High School
Oh,
was built
yeah.
in there.
Is that church, was that the Congregational?
Yeah.
Right, that's the
one that,
Congregational?
they used as a music hall.
Yep. So this is before 1923, probably a few years before 1923. And then yet St. Joseph's School is in the foreground, right?
Yep.
Do you remember what year that was?
1907, I think.
Okay, that they would have built that?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. So somewhere between 1907 and then.
It's a different shot of the same
Yep.
neighborhood.
And you can see a little bit later shot. But you got St. Boniface down at the bottom, down below there.
Church.
You got Nicolet High School to the top,
Yeah.
middle left. And is the Wilson Park in the picture here at all? I don't think so.
Park,
Oh yeah. Oh, it's, the edge of it, right over there, is Wilson Park.
Because it would be right here.
Right.
Would be kitty corner from where the new St. Boniface was built.
Yep. So that would all be there. And the St. Joseph's School is in the picture somewhere in there.
There it is.
Right there. That's the roof of St. Joseph's. Okay.
And there's
So you
Boyle
got all
Hall,
that.
Main Hall,
And you
St.
can.
Norbert Abbey as it appeared
Oh yeah.
back
Way up on
around
top there.
1940, I think this might
Yep.
have been.
Yep.
Van Dyke Gym.
Yeah. In fact, you can see all the residences. A lot of homes that I know a lot of people can relate to from the west side. And just another overview.
Another shot. This is the interior of Arndt's Drugstore. Used to have tables, and I think there were even some booths back there.
And do you know what that became?
It became Stowe's?
Stowe's.
Yep.
I think you're right, yep. Got the pennants all hanging up there. Probably the college pennants.
Oh, yeah. Soda fountain.
Beautiful.
There were 4 drugstores in the Pier 5, actually.
Yeah, the west side, you had
Creamery,
3 in the same,
Hans,
yep.
And
Frankens.
Franken's, which was...
That was 3 on the east side,
Yeah, 3 on the east side.
and there was 3 on the west side. There was 6.
Were there 3 on the
Well,
west side?
yeah, because you had the Rexall drugstore,
Lang's.
you had Lang's, and then Arndt's, or
Stowe's.
so there was 3. So we had 6 drugstores serving about a third of the present day populations. So Joe and I have speculated, or at least I've speculated for years, that everybody must have been higher than a kite back in the day.
But they loved their ice cream.
And they all had soda fountains.
Yeah. That's a great shot of the Daredevil Billy Stack. You wanna
Jumping.
Tell us about that?
Yeah, this was actually, the interesting thing is he's actually jumping off the top of Nicolet down into the well. Drew a crowd estimated to be around 2,000 people to watch this. It was a reenactment of the exact same stunt that supposedly occurred the year before. However, the year before, the person that stood out there all of a sudden stepped back, and then they shoved something over the top of the building that was essentially just a sack full of stuff decorated up to look like a person. And no sooner did that sink to the bottom than someone that had been swimming underneath popped up. And of course, people realized it was just a joke. But the next year, this Daredevil Billy Stack, decided he'll do it. He jumped over the thing.
What was his real name?
William Hesacker.
Yeah.
And he had a brother, Tommy Hesacker.
Yeah.
One was Kid Stack and one was Billy Stack. And I think Kid Stack was Tommy, and then Billy Stack was William.
We'll see more of the antics of Kid Stack
Willie
a
Stack.
little later on.
Yeah.
This is a very excellent example of Eastlake style, which was home to the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad Station. This dates to 1917, and was donated to us by Mary Desitel.
You know, an interesting thing, and I'm just sharing this with you now because I didn't realize it, but I was doing some other research, and the original railroad station or depot on the west side was across the tracks on the other side. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if this building is the one that we all remember, you know, that was torn down in our lifetime, or if this was the one that was across the tracks on the other side.
Or maybe they rerouted the tracks. You know?
Well, I doubt that.
You would think that with all the luggage and everything, this would be where the train would
Right.
likely come in.
And you know, on the original build, you know, or are we on the back side of it and the tracks are on the other side?
Yeah.
Or the front side, I guess you'd say. So I'm not quite sure. So I'm going to continue to do that. Just within the last week, I actually found that out. There was something I was reading, and it said, oh yeah, the station used to be on the other side of the tracks. And then they rebuilt it. I guess that would be easily solved by pulling up a picture of that station that was torn down, because architecturally it should match.
College Avenue, unpaved.
Ooh. Yeah.
St. Joseph's Church.
St. Joseph's Church, the second church. In fact, go back to that, because I think on the west side, on the east side, I think you can see, yeah, if you look down the street to the other side, that's Pier High School right there.
Across the river.
That was the castle on the hill, across the river. Looks like it's across the street when you zoom back out. But yet that's Pier High School right across there.
And this is is that St. Francis steeple?
No, that's something to the right. I don't know what it is. It's a pretty substantial structure. Because if that's Pier, St. Francis would be to the left. That's definitely Pier High School.
But this couldn't be on the west side, wasn't there?
I don't think so, because if this is the church, the shoreline is right there. There was no building on the west side. Right.
This is the way they dug the basement or the foundation for the mill in
Shattuck and Babcock.
The American Writing Paper Mill.
Yep, which became Nicolet paper. 1890.
They moved all the earth.
Yep, very much manual labor, and you can see they have the stone for the foundation already on the far left over there. That's all the stone, and I do believe the Van Gimmert family probably had a whole lot to do with this particular project, at least from the stonework end of things. I don't know that they were originally in monument business. I think this business led to monument business. In fact, is that more stone on the left, Joe? Right, zoom in. Yeah, right there. Is that more stone? I bet that's more stone.
So, yeah.
Sure, that's more stone for the foundation. Zoom back out, and obviously you can see the bridge in the background. And it appears that they create a raceway there, or something, probably to get the water out of there. Yeah, and then you do have those stones out there, which would have been part of the crib dams on the other side of the bridge. Amazing. Hudson Manufacturing.
What did they manufacture?
Something to do with the dairy industry. I remember, I'm not exactly certain what it was. I know if there was an actual crowd here, we'd have an answer to that question. Yeah. I think Badger Wood Products ended up going in there.
That's right.
This would be a parade. Is there a date on that? I'm going to guess 1916 or 1918.
In that neighborhood.
Somewhere in there. And that's an awful tall woman.
2 flute players and a mess of drummers.
Yep. Well, there's Lang's Pharmaceutical right there on the right. And you can see Jacobs Brothers. You know, Joe, I think Jacobs Brothers was in operation at the same time Max France. I think there were 2 different meat markets over on the west side.
Yep.
On Main Street. In fact, I'm sure there were. And it looks like that guy's bicycle, he left his bike overnight.
Yeah.
Nice shot.
Yeah.
I don't think
One of the gents at our last picture show was able to identify this employee of Derek's, but I can't remember the name.
I can't either.
We'll have that for you next time.
I do remember going there with that tray that they'd hook right onto your window.
Oh, yeah.
Get all your root beers off of there.
A nickel mug and a dime
Mug, yep.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun.
In case you didn't know that it was a grandstand, they labeled it for you.
Clearly labeled. I at first, and Joe convinced me that it is actually, was the original grandstand. I marvel at the size. I would guess they could accommodate 2,500 to 3,000 people.
I think so.
It's a massive bleachers. And now they're none to be had.
It's the Great Flood. I think this is South 4th Street.
Yes, kind of near where the Pier greenhouse
Yep.
was. In fact, we have other photos that have the greenhouse in it.
Yep. Well,
You don't know the year on that? No, that's fine.
1920s, I think.
20s, okay. This is a shot probably taken from where U.S. Paper is, somewhere in that range. And we're looking down the river to the south. And you have Nicolet Paper on the right.
So this is a lot of Easty Pier here.
Right, that would be the east side over on the left. And just, I marvel at some of the boats that they brought in. I mean, they're pretty substantial boats, which would imply they must have done an awful lot of dredging through those years at the Fox River to get those boats down that far.
This is, I think, the second building. The first one burned, and they built the second sanatorium.
Yep.
Sanitarium.
Beautiful building.
Yeah, it is. Hickory Grove. This is
Hotel roofers.
every major railway station had a railway hotel next to it.
Yep.
Where they had sample rooms for the salesmen to set up, and
Barber, you can see at the far left there, the last window says Barber on it, right there.
travelers could stay over. This was quite a well-equipped hotel back in 1912.
Oh, definitely. And I'm gonna guess they probably had 18 to 20 rooms in the hotel for the day. And I also know that at some point in its history, the far left side became a grocery store. That was one of those grocery stores we highlighted from the 1940s. There's the Jacobs brothers with their delivery wagon out in front. Go back to that once, Joe. That September. What does it say in that sign? September morning. Way to the right there.
September morn.
And then, can you zoom in on the yellow part of it? Was Bray? Oh, they sell Bray. I think it says Bray. Yeah.
May.
Oh, okay. May Bray. Yeah.
May 2nd.
And a little Dutch woman there on the left. No, right. Go a little bit more over with your. No, the other way. Right there. See the little Dutch woman there.
A little what?
Dutch woman there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The hat. Which would make sense.
That's Easty Pier. How did you get over there? It's the great shot.
I think we've
who's who
literally shown this for 20 years
of
now.
Westy Pier, and we had no names, and gradually we acquired
All the names.
almost all. We don't know this person
On the
here,
right,
and we
that
don't
guy.
know this gentleman.
Which amazes me because you just really, you got a good picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's the story with, let's see, there was a story with someone, Quentin Williams.
Oh, Quentin. Yeah, it's Quentin Williams.
You thought that maybe was what became his wife on the right.
Yeah, his wife was the former Dorothy Seymour, whose father was
Superintendent.
the mayor
Yep.
of De Pere. And I asked her once, "Is this your husband? Is this you?" And she said, "My father would have shot me if he ever heard that I was in a bar."
You can see Jim Van Gimmert with the glasses. Oh, that's Merrill Guerin, the forehead. We could tell just by the eyebrows and the forehead, we knew that was Merrill Guerin.
Yeah.
And then Jim Van Gimmert with the glasses on there.
Yeah.
Art
This
Brown.
is the mayor of De Pere, Von Mays.
Von Mays. Maze Bus
My
Company.
cousin Richard, who was trying to get his hand in his money pocket.
Dick Cerrucci, Ed Vancestein,
Yeah.
Vancestein,
Ernie Stiller from Green Bay, the
photographer, and the Jansons.
Pete and Mrs. Pete Jansen,
It's a great shot.
the owners. Bernice McDonough, she's an East Sider.
What do you think this is? Probably the mid to late 40s, probably
I
right
think
after
late
World War II.
40s.
Yeah, right after World War II. Dick Cerrucci, I just sent you that article. Dick Cerrucci served on the same ship or in the same group as my Uncle Harry Maternuski. Yeah.
Yep.
Gene St. George, they had the St. George men's clothing on the east side.
Yeah. Carl Sturdivant was the band director at the Reformatory, had his own dance band.
Wow. Great shot.
It's the boat factory.
Oh yeah, this is the one we referenced earlier. The left side of the building became Gross Motors after the boat factory kind of fizzled up, finished up, I should say.
So we're looking to the southeast here, I think.
Oh, actually the right side, I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
This
So there's St. Boniface. So the right side over here, the far right side became Gross Motors.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then here's the police department, fire
Yep.
department.
Yep. And then the left side became a different business. I'm trying to think of what the name of that. That wasn't Hudson, was it? No.
No, that was across the street.
Yeah. But this kidney boat manufactured tens of thousands of boats in its lifetime. Oh yeah, here's a little truth in advertising.
Like this. To fully demonstrate the massive structure and the size of the building, they had the cast of the Wizard of Oz, the Munchkins, came in and
To model.
modeled. So that,
Just a massive. It was a good sized building, but it wasn't quite that big.
no.
Yeah, they made kidney launches, canoes, rowing, and hunting boats. They also, as you can see, those are some larger boats, and they did actually ship boats out by train all over the country and some around the world.
Yep.
Another truth in advertising.
This was their factory.
This was the original Lang Pharmacy, 1910.
And then it shows the huge freight boats coming in to drop off tonnage.
It was right near their factory that they had moved into
Yes,
on
right.
the east side shores.
Which is not possible because it was on the other side of the lock.
Exactly.
There's a boat there.
The boat wouldn't have gotten through.
Yeah.
Watch our city grow. Broadway from our office door, so that's Broadway looking to the north. Although, ironically, from their office door. So that the Lang Pharmacy ends up down this photo
Yeah,
and to
this
the
is
right.
Broadway looking south.
We're looking south.
Deckard building.
It's not from their door. And there's another shot.
The factory in 1911.
And here's what they grew into. And they did ship stuff all over. Here's reality. This was the...
It's a little exaggerated.
just
I
slight.
think,
Yeah, this was originally a hotel.
yeah.
So for reference, it's where Hardee's was, right near what on the east side we call Tin Can Park. But it was where Hardee's was. It eventually became a cold storage building that I believe the French family had that and ran that for a good number of years.
This is
Main Street, West
Main
of Pier.
Street, Mary Jane Herbert estimates the age of this photo around 1906.
Yep, on the far right, on the bottom right, don't zoom in, but right there, zoom back out again. That right there is the Blacksmith Shop. So as soon as you come across the bridge, right on the right-hand side was this building. It was the Blacksmith Shop there. And I believe that's Rabideau Hardware, right there.
Yep.
And I believe a dentist, Gregory, was it a dentist or a doctor? Dentist, Dr. Gregory was upstairs in that building. You can see the trolley car coming right down the main road.
Here's the water tower and Rue Piper's garage.
Yep.
That from which was taken the photo that we saw earlier of the train, the trolley.
Oop. There we go. There's that Nash car dealership that we talked about, which then became, I think that's where the bowling alley ended up going.
Yep.
into the car dealership, which would have been fitting. And there's the Rabideau Hardware on the right, with those windows hanging over. Trolley tracks are still there, so I'd say this is probably very early 1920s, right?
Yep.
1924, 25. A lot of those same cars at the fairgrounds. In fact, I think one of those was Joe's first car.
Nice. This is, I think, the 1914 Memorial Day Parade,
Yep.
or 4th of July. And you can see my Uncle Sal's shop.
Oh, Palace of Sweets.
And there you see Uncle Sal trying to sell something to these two guys.
And that float right there, that's the Bing and Risden float.
Yep.
The Bing and Risden business was a, I don't know what you call it, a all-in-one shop.
General mercantile.
Yep.
Dry goods.
It's where the library ended up in Westy Pier. I just noticed that next float down, that's quite the product. Just the very next one, but after the Bing and Risden, right there. What? That looks like a house. It's quite the structure.
Yeah.
And cars full of the ladies. They had a big crowd out for this parade.
Not much to do.
It was a big parade.
This is the inside of the Palace of Sweets. There's my grandmother Libby and her brother-in-law Sal, and people we don't know.
I would love to have that fixture right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tiffany style.
What a gorgeous piece. I wonder where that ended up.
It's a great photo here. Uncle Jim, Uncle Sal, Uncle George, and this woman that we don't know. But the rumor has it that she left Pier to pursue a career in Hollywood and was given the lead role in the picture The Bride of Frankenstein. You can see how that kind of resembles her a bit there. Here's the Stowe Drugs.
Stowe's, yep. A lot of people remember going there for penny candy and for ice cream, a float, or a malt.
Penny candy, there's something you'll never see again.
No, that's for sure.
This is the inside of what eventually became the Ferris wheel restaurant.
Yep.
It was owned by Joe Tony.
Joe Tony. Was Joe Tony, would he have been related to the Ferris family? Is there a connection?
He had a brother who married a Cerrucci.
Okay. And just to point out, just for the West Siders, the Tony family was a Lebanese family. The Ferris family is Lebanese, right?
Yeah.
Cerrucci Lebanese. There was on the west side, in what we know as the Tree Streets today, Oak, Cedar, Pine, and Elm, there was essentially a Lebanese neighborhood over there with a lot of prominent Lebanese names. There was a Shalhoub family there too?
Shalhoubs.
Yep.
Ferris, Farah, George.
George, yep. George.
George, and his father, George, who was a championship bowler.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Rolled a 900.
Moved to Walla Walla. This is the West Pier Creamery, which eventually became the Morning Glory Dairy on
Morning
West
Glory,
Main Street.
yeah. Mary Jane is convinced of that. There was also a creamery on Creamery Road in West Pier, and that's where I was kind of a little confused. But she was about 99% certain that this was where Morning Glory ended up. There's that Bing and Risden building, just a general mercantile type of a place.
It was to the west side what the Lee building was to the east side.
Yep, that's right, yeah. And it eventually was torn down, and on that site was built the Carnegie Library, the De Pere Library over there, which is still there. If you look, go back one there just so you can see just kind of neat. You can see the bridge way down there. You can see where they came off the bridge. Actually, the bridge go to the left, right? So when you went down, you went to the left. This might be a photo from when the bridge actually footed closer to James Street.
Yep.
Instead of George Street.
Yeah. This is the original the Pier Police Department and Fire Department and Library and Welfare Office.
And the lookout tower for when they trained young men to go up there and be on the lookout for enemy planes.
Yep.
During World War II.
And then they took it down.
For those that are wondering where it was, if you remember where Ambrosius used to be on, what street is that, Joe? Is that 4th?
4th.
On 4th Street. It was right across the street from Ambrosius.
Exactly. Directly across the street.
Yep, and was there Bootleggers? Was that over there too, the bar?
I can't recall.
And then Day's Tavern. They were all in a row there.
Yeah.
Day's Tavern would have been just to the north of it across the street. And right now, Associated Bank ended up building on that site.
Yeah.
And now I think it's like an investment company or something like that.
Is this Leroy? Something? Leroy?
Yeah, it says Leroy, yeah. It's very nice. You know what though? I thought it was Vi Leininger did that.
I did too.
That's interesting now that you see that down there, huh? In fact, I'm almost certain it was Vi Leininger that did that.
Yeah, that's her style.
Oh, there in the background you can see that building, the city, the police department, right there. There's the police department. And then if you,
St. Boniface.
yep, pre-steeple. For those that don't know, the St. Boniface originally, when they fundraised, they did not have enough money to do the steeple. A few years later, actually they used the church for a school also for a few years. They eventually raised enough money to build the steeple, but they didn't have enough money for the clock. And a few years after that, the clock went in. In the foreground, if you zoom back out again, there we go. There's the blacksmith shop. Not there, that's a crib.
Here.
There we go. There's the blacksmith shop. The Van Gimmert family ended up buying this site and building Van Gimmert Memorials, which was right at the end of the bridge on the right-hand side. And then they had a good number of apartments up above that complex. To the left, across the street, is what I know as the Irish pub. And now it's Credo that's in over there. In fact, in there, you don't have the building where Pasquale's isn't built yet. And back to that flood. This is a tribute to, or a thank you, I should say, to Mike Fleck and Carla Nix. They were ambassadors for the city at that time, and they were, I don't know if it's tied to...
We were taking a walking tour.
That's it.
And with Mrs. Joe Nix.
Yeah, there we go. They're reenacting this. And Mike did a good job. And of course, thank you, Carla, for taking the place of that gentleman on the right. And this actually, if you go backwards, Joe, one.
Go backwards?
Backward one picture, yeah. You can see where Giver's Barbershop is to the left. And you can see that there was actually a barber there before the Givers family went in. As Joe indicated earlier in the show, it's Zabrowski was the barber in there. He also, in addition to doing your hair, you could go to the music store, which was adjacent. Sold talking machines, records. I'm assuming the talking machines were the record players. Athletic goods as well, baseballs, etc. Victor Edison. And back to the beginning.
We're going to
Is it Valentine's?
take a look at Kid Stack's Valentine's. You want to?
Yes, we referenced Kid Stack, and actually, I think this is actually, I think it's Willie Stack. His brother Thomas Hesacker, went by the moniker Kid Stack, a younger brother. And Willie Stack, William Hesacker, very interesting young man, quite the daredevil. He traveled a Midwest circuit doing rodeo throughout the Midwest, and also a boxer, an amateur boxer throughout the Midwest.
Yeah.
He was also in World War I and was De Pere's first casualty of World War I. And the VFW post shortly after took on his name, the Hesacker VFW post that we had. This was one of his many stunts. And in his Midwest circuit, where he would have gone to Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, naturally, here's a picture from that day that he jumped off. Supposedly 2,000 people came out. In his travels, when he was going through the circuit, he got to know a few people, obviously of the female persuasion, and obviously was well liked. And we acquired, maybe 10 years ago, Joe, someone came into your store and dropped off literally a couple hundred Valentine's cards that he had received from all over the country. And we're just going to share a few of them.
We cleaned a lot of them up and sold them last week.
At the store. Here's a fun one. Would you blush or turn pale if I kissed you? Now remember, these are from about 1914, 1915. It's from Cyphers, Minnesota. I'm sending you my love by special delivery. All for Willie. You'll go back to that one, Joe. Why would there be 2006? Isn't that, see on the bottom left? It's got a 2006 on the bottom left. I know isn't that funny? It's obviously it's date stamped 1915, so it's from way back.
Well, they had it in inventory for 9 years.
That's 2006, not 1906. If you want to peach, come on over to our town and take your pick. A lot of innuendo.
I don't think any of these guys went over to Hallmark Cards after this.
No. I'm looking for a nice young fella.
This looks like the Flatiron Building in
New York. Yep. I believe you're right. And boy, that's one tall woman. And what a risque pose to show us her boot. This is a private dock, but you may land here. Again, pulling up the skirt.
Right along.
You may pick my pocket anytime you want. I love these. Now this is a good one. We're a little crowded, but there's room for one more. I can only imagine. I wish I could do something for you.
Well, let me think about it.
It's just a kind of a Mae West pose. Best wishes.
Pretty gal.
I'd like to read the love light in your eyes. There's Willie, which would have been his moniker. This is yours, Joe.
Nothing doing in Pier, Wisconsin, but I should worry. I can think of you and be happy. Do you want to do this?
Oh no, this is you. I try and I can't.
Please don't never forget that in Pier, a little girl is pining for a letter.
I love it.
You get to do the next one.
No, you got to do that too. You have a better. You do that better.
To the love a little girl like me.
Little Betty Boop, right? And that kind of the short skirt there.
Yeah.
Why won't you be my pony boy and ride away with me? Just imagine. I never missed you till I kissed you. New Year's greetings. Must be a.
And back to the beginning with kids.
Just a handful of the Valentine's cards from Mr. Stack, Mr. Hesacker.
I'm going to show you the history and the story of what became Nicolet High School in 1923. Where are you?
Ooh, wrong one. There you go.
It started in 1878 when this announcement appeared, inviting people to a public meeting to discuss establishing a free high school in West Pier, which eventually turned out to be this one. And I don't know what the heck they were thinking.
It's pretty amazing. This is another shot of that school building built in 1874-75 where the present Wilson Park is. But yeah, the kids are standing. in the window.
Yeah,
You know, not to mention all of them up there, and it looks like the teacher on the far right
yeah.
joined them out there on the
Was.
balcony.
Well, it was supervised, so they could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because we do have those other photos from West Pier where those people must have been trained here at this school to go sit out on those ledges. Good shot. And
And
there's
there's
another
the one
shot.
we saw earlier.
Does this have the addition on it or not? I think so.
Which?
This-
This is the original.
Yeah, the additions to the left, yeah.
Yeah. And this might have even been added afterwards.
And I'd referenced earlier that the East Siders were coming in open enrolling, and the reason for that is that East Side schools were in quite a disarray. They were pretty much condemned by the state. They were forced to build a new school building. And in fact, the one that at the present site of Associated Bank on the east side burned down. So they were just operating in different businesses.
Wherever they could.
Yep, and the new school, the Castle on the Hill, was built in 1899. So through the 1890s, a lot of the high school kids were open enrolling on the west side.
This is taken from 4th Street looking east.
Toward the campus, toward the river.
The campus. I don't know what this building is.
That's substantial though.
There's a church there. I think that has to be the church on 3rd and
No,
Reed,
that didn't happen.
3rd and Grand.
Boy, there is a church here. What is that? You know what? If we were, I wonder if this is reversed. No, that wouldn't be St. Boniface because it doesn't have that kind of steeple. St. Joseph's, that's too far over to be St. Joseph's.
Well, not necessarily.
I'm wondering the perspective on this. Obviously, we're looking toward the river, right?
Yeah, it's down here somewhere.
Well, we'll have to study that one a little bit because now I'm kind of wondering about it.
We'll ask Mary Jane.
Yep.
The hand-colored. It was a beautiful building, made with Cream City brick.
One of their first basketball teams.
Yep,
1902.
1902. This was the class play.
1913.
Donated by Lorraine Van de Waal. And the class play was in 1913. And had quite an assemblage of characters. There's Native American. There's the Dutch element. They probably
Over on the right.
her from East Pier.
St. Mary's. We came over to guest appearance.
Cannot
And these two guys in the
put a
front.
finger on what these guys are all about.
Zoom out a little bit because it's pixelated a little too. Yeah, I don't know what those two guys on the left are. And then the third guy in, not sure on him either. Very interesting collection. I
Yeah.
can't imagine what the play was. Actually, we could probably search the old papers and find out what the play was.
Yeah.
Sophomore
This is,
class.
The sophomore class of 1918 with my great aunt Adele,
On the bottom right there?
front and center.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice crowd.
Very nice. 1920, the junior class of 1920.
Yeah.
Look at the guys dressed to the nines
This
for
is
the
my
photo
great
day.
uncle Russell. He might have been eating a little much lately, but
There you go. And it looks like maybe they were preparing for that flood that came, and their boys' pants are up awful high.
yeah. And his brother Jim,
Oh, okay. What was the last name?
90.
Nimey.
Yeah.
Okay, the Nimeys.
This is the indoor field meet. Is that what that is?
No, but I'm assuming it must have been some athletic endeavor of some sort that they would have had, but you got all the
Yeah.
different colleges and
Different-
universities
different
represented.
Big Tens. I don't know what Minnesota's doing in there. I could have blasted out. A lot of Wisconsin, Michigan.
Yep.
I think it might have been like an academic
Yeah,
college bowl.
yeah, with the males and the females. Yeah, you're probably right.
This is
The proposed new school.
right. And you can see it's the architecture with Feller, Schober, Stevenson. And this is what it looked like. But apparently these architects were expert at adapting and modifying blueprints, because here you can see what the school actually looked like, very true to the illustration. But there was a school in Wausau for vocational training that was identical to Nicolet High School.
Which Fuller Schober also did.
Yeah, I don't know, was this Schober?
I would bet.
You can see the main entrance here.
Yeah.
The configuration, well, there's different 3 windows there as opposed to 4 here, but
virtually identical. And then that front piece.
yeah.
It's identical.
But this was one of the premier schools in northern Wisconsin. It was very beautiful, very well preserved. It had 2 drinking fountains on each floor.
Quite the luxury.
And the gymnasium had maple
top floors on concrete surfaces.
Right.
Interior trim was all of oak.
Yep,
terrazzo floors, which they last forever because they're still lasting. There. The new building was erected at a cost of $140,000. See him coming out.
You can see that it was built to accommodate grade school kids from 5th grade on up, because there's
like cherubs of younger kids
children's motif there.
Reading. And the grade school actually occupied the basement level.
I think so.
Of the building.
Yep.
There's your square footage. 15,000 square feet. Let's see, the building covers an area of 15,000 square feet, and the floor area is 42,000 square feet.
Uh-huh.
And of course, they give you the cubic feet also. And there's a shot more recently.
Recently, but it still is
beautiful.
Marvelously maintained.
Beautiful. 1922, 23, that terrazzo floor is still probably as good as the day it went in.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the cost.
The general construction was publicized as $95,000. This is what it's going to cost you, taxpayers. Then, we forgot to add the steam heating.
$17,500.
And the plumbing.
You probably want plumbing. Another $7,500.
The wiring.
$2,200.
Well, you add it all up, including the architect's fees. Got to have that.
$5,000 for the architect.
The hardware of $900. The grand total was $130. Then you have to add the incidentals like the blackboards and the stage fixtures and everything, kicking in another $10,000. So it started out as $95,000, ended up
140.
50% higher. Well, architects have to live too.
It's kind of like a car. Do you want a windshield?
These are the blueprints that
original plan
surfaced when St. Norbert High School closed, and they bought this building to be the home of the new Abbott Pennings High School. And you can see the ground floor. They have the chapel and the sacristy and things of that nature. This is interesting. They had a stage in the gymnasium.
Which Joe didn't know.
I didn't know that. We did some digging, and we came up with pictures of them playing basketball, and look, there's a stage there because there's the pep band is sitting on the stage.
Yep.
Well, if you're barreling in for a layup, you've got 10 minutes to do something.
A fraction of a second, yeah, a fraction of a second to make a quick decision.
Right, otherwise you wind up in the tuba section. And you can see how it looked.
The balcony.
The balcony.
And what did they say the seating was in there? It was some preposterous figure.
Oh yeah, they said that basketball games could accommodate as many as 750 people. Where?
Yeah, yeah. There's a
Some
shot.
of them.
You got some down below. How you make that to be 750? I don't know. And then obviously now we're on the opposite side of that stage, and then up above the flag was brought out to that balcony for the national anthem.
As opposed to the new West Pier athletic facility, which is
Stunning.
quite beautiful.
And there's Mr. Buck Lindsley.
Lindsley, one of the greatest athletes ever to
Right.
graduate from West.
Yeah, arguably could be the best basketball player ever come through. Went on to play for the University of Minnesota,
Yep.
Where I believe he may have been all Big Ten.
Yeah,
Uh,
terrific.
maybe not first team, but certainly mentioned, and became Parks Director back in the 1960s and into the early 70s before he passed away. And there you can see the second floor
auditorium, the upper part of the
stage,
down there,
balcony.
and you can
There it
see
is.
that the auditorium could hold about 400 people.
Yeah, so they would have done graduations there,
Balcony.
numerous plays, a lot of productions there. There was a graduation.
Gene
This is
Gargan's
actually-
sister was in this class.
Yeah, this is the last graduation.
Yep, 1959. This is a great shot of Professor Enna's, one of his first bands, and it's a who's who of West Pier people. There's the Prof.
Prof. Enna.
Yeah, and Prangy, Stoll, and Jacobs. They grew up to be neighboring merchants on Main Street.
Yep,
May LeCare married Leo Dillon.
yep.
Not Leo?
Yeah, Leo.
Yeah, Fred's brother. And Kidney of the
Kidney.
Boat Factory. And
Beauregard.
don't know that Lades was the superintendent's daughter
Yep.
and son.
And then you have James.
Wilbur Dennis was the head of the Fine Arts Music Department at the University of Oshkosh.
Oh yeah, okay.
Jim Olson.
Jim Hughes was the Congressman Hughes' son.
Yep.
And this young man ended up taking his father's place on the school board after he passed.
It's a great crowd.
Yep, wonderful.
This is taken at the north entrance of the school, 1930, 7 years after it opened. And I think they all went to the same women's clothing store. to get the-
Beavers clothing.
Except for this guy.
On the east side, yeah. I don't know what he's doing there. Maybe he was the bus driver.
There's some people here. Sam Hallowan's relatives. Dewey Rossman, great local trumpet player. Ed Rademacher. These are all very fine musicians that were part of the West Pier program. And they had a championship band. They were national champions, West Pier.
Four times in the 30s, late 20s, early 30s.
Pardon me?
4 times between the late 1920s, early 1930s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here they are. They had a jazz band they called the Nickelodeons. I thought that was kind of interesting.
There was a cable show, the Nickelodeon or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
This is an operetta called The Trial of Jane and John. All these people were various nursery rhyme characters. The guy in the middle is my dad, who, when he was told that he had to wear tights and play the fiddle, he quit orchestra the next day.
Never did it again.
And the New West.
For those that weren't here on our last program, we did have walking tours of the building. And our next program, which we haven't announced the date for, if you happen to be in town, they are going to also offer walking tours once again for those snowbirds that might be out there.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to tour the grounds. It takes about 15 minutes to go around the property.
And well worth it.
Well worth it.
See what they did here. Just a terrific school. So there you have it.
That wraps that up. Now we should head to the individuals.
The notables, or do you want to do the?
Oh, let's do the proms and pokes real quick.
real quick.
Because I'm not sure what that is.
I
Oh,
don't
now I
know.
remember. Okay. It's that time of year.
Yeah, in honor of the Minnesota Vikings, or in dishonor, whatever you want to say, we have again
For the
captured
19th year.
photograph of their Super Bowl
Trophy case. And once again, fittingly, it's empty.
There's nobody home. This is McKim Boyd's Aunt Matilda, who was recently awarded the trophy for the Bill Belichick look-alike contest. There's a resemblance there, you gotta admit.
There is.
This is the Maharishi Boydu from India. Is showing a new exercise that he learned when he attended the Boyd family picnic last summer.
It was quite a party.
Yes.
I never tire of that one.
The exercise was adopted by the West Pier gym teacher who
Practice.
incorporated it in the curriculum. Some pictures of the West Pier prom back in the 50s. It was the atomic prom. You can see by the mushroom-shaped cloud over the Queen. And the evacuation exercise. McKim has a love of chocolate, and he wanted his prom date to dress up like a Hershey's chocolate kiss. But that didn't work out. But she tried.
Yes, we did.
And McKim was prom king that year, and this is a picture of his crown.
Spiked hair.
Saved the bundle by using Argo laundry starch instead of buying anything festive for the occasion.
Wonderful.
So we're going to wind it up, I think.
Yep.
With well, we have some St. Norbert's, but we'll save.
We're
that
going to
for
skip
the
that,
next
yeah.
show. We have a number of very noticeable people who graduated from West Pier and Nicolet High. We're going to start with.
This is no way meant to slight anyone. It just happens to be the list that we put together, because obviously there's many, many more out there.
At the age of 7, Loretta Christian said that she wanted to be the drum major of the West Pier High School band, and she did just that. When her counterpart from East Pier, Jeannie Pronke Lambert, showed up at one of the shows, we snapped this photo of their chance reunion. There's Loretta and Jeannie.
Wonderful
They
shot.
haven't seen each other in 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
And this is Jeannie when she was the drum majorette for East Pier.
This is Wilson Buster Charles. He was born in West Pier in 1908. Wilson Charles was a Native American Oneida athlete who finished 4th in the 1932 Summer Olympics in New York. He also competed nationally in basketball and football. He went on to become an engineer and died in Arizona in 2006 at the age of 98. Wilson Buster Charles.
G.D. Willems married Merrill Guerin, and she was a graduate of West Pier High. She attended Lawrence University, where she majored in operatic performance. She's a marvelous singer. She helped in the family business, which was Willems Groceries on 5th and Main. She taught music in the De Pere schools for many years, and she was admired by all who knew her. She passed away last year. You can also see Susie Altmeyer, legendary grade school principal. We named a school after her. Go ahead.
Nope, you do that one. That one was yours.
Where is it? Charles Hill, right?
Yep. Charlie Hill graduated from West Pier High School in 1969. As a stand-up comedian, he made many appearances on The Late Night with David Letterman and on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. In addition, he has dozens of film and TV credits as well as documentaries. A talented writer, Charlie wrote scripts for the TV series Roseanne. In addition to the Bethune Diversity Award, he was awarded honors by Native Americans on the web for his lifetime of promoting positive images of Native peoples and bridging cultural differences through the healing power of humor. Charlie died in 2013 at the age of 62. Charlie Hill. If you'd like, you can Google for some of his shows when he was on the Tonight Show.
Father Robert Cornell, was a 1941 graduate of St. Norbert College. He taught history and political science there until 1975, when he served as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives until 1979. He resigned from Congress when the Vatican ordered all priests to withdraw from politics. He died in 2009 at the age of 89. I visited him a few weeks before he died. He asked if I was still a Democrat, and I told him yes. And other than in confession, it was the only time I ever lied to a priest.
This is Robert Van Gimmert, one of the many Van Gimmerts that went through Nicolet High School or West Pier High School. Robert was one of the prominent individuals in the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, New Mexico. He was in charge of the majority of all procurement and supplies, scheduling and supervising deliveries, all of which were done at night. Over 40 trucks and drivers and related security personnel worked under him. Robert loved living life dangerously. We happened across this article from 1917, which actually appeared in newspapers all around the country. It's titled Little Boy Saves Child. Out of Pier, Wisconsin, Lawrence Kidney, the kidney boat people, the 4-year-old son of William Kidney, West Pier boat builder, rescued Robert Van Gimmert, the same Robert we're talking about, who was 2 years old from drowning. The two boys, together with Lawrence's younger brother, were playing when Robert fell into an old, deep well. When he screamed, the younger Kidney boy said, "Let's run home and tell Mama he's drowning." But Lawrence reproved by saying that he'll be all drowned then. He caught the drowning child by the hand, and after hanging down the slippery sides of the well, pulled him to safety, just muddy and wet, that's all. He defied death again when he disregarded warnings from his wife and entered his recipe for chicken and chips in a national contest. Here's a picture of him with his chicken and chips. He entered it and proceeded to go on and lose that particular competition. But he was a winner in life, Robert Van Gimmert.
Prof. Alex Enna was the band director at Nicolet High from 1923 until his death in 1946. Enna studied opera at the Copenhagen Conservatory, yet never played a musical instrument. That didn't stop him from producing 4 national champion bands at Nicolet. Professor Alex Enna. Here you can see
a shot of his band, one of the many.
On their way to the national tournament in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
This is Russ Young. From 1943 to 1955, Russ Young coached every sport at West Pier High School, where his career record with the football team was 63 wins and 14 losses, which included 6 undefeated seasons and 7 conference championships. He left De Pere after 1955, and later at UW Oshkosh, he coached the basketball team to a conference championship in 1964. That same year, he took the team to the NAIA National Tournament. His football teams there were conference champs in 68, 1972, and 1976. Russ Young. I'll do this. This is James Hughes. James Hughes was elected to Congress as a member of the Democratic Party in 1933, but chose not to seek renomination in 1934, resuming a post as sales manager in De Pere. While in Congress, he represented Wisconsin's 8th Congressional District. Hughes was a colorful and popular public figure in De Pere. This is a shot from the 1914 parade where he dressed up in support of women's suffrage. In the same parade is a George Gershwin lookalike. James Hughes died in a hospital in Rochester, Minnesota on August 9th, 1940 at the age of 57. At that time, he was on the school board for the West De Pere School District, and his son, James Hughes II, took over his position.
Denison Wheelock was an Oneida band conductor, composer, and cornet soloist in the early 20th century. He was compared to John Philip Sousa and nominated to be conductor of the U.S. Marine Band. He was appointed to lead the famous Carlisle Indian School Band and composed and conducted a symphony in Carnegie Hall. He became a lawyer and became noted for his advocacy of Native American rights. At one time, he was conductor of the De Pere City Band. You can see the East Siders in red and the West Siders in black print. President A.G. Wells.
And his son, Joel Wheelock, is right there. That's
Yep.
His son was also part of the band.
Clarinet.
He actually, as a lawyer, he did present cases before the Supreme Court of the United States.
We had a great surprise for Mrs. Vincent,
Oh yeah,
whose husband owned the theater.
Lucille Vincent. Yeah.
Lucille, thank you. She was in the front row. She came to all of our shows. And in the middle of the show, she said, "That's my dad,
Elmer.
Elmer Cullen." And afterwards, she says, "You know, I knew he played in the band, but I never knew what instrument he played." Well, he was a trombone player.
Great picture.
So that, you know, every now and then you have a warm fuzzy.
Yep, that was nice. Dominic Gentilly taught and coached at West De Pere High School until the Green Bay Packers and head coach Vince Lombardi hired him as an assistant to the head athletic trainer Bud Jorgensen. He became the head athletic trainer in 1970. During his 23 years with the Packers, he was an integral part of 5 national championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls. Upon his retirement in 1993, the Packers awarded him the title of Athletic Trainer Emeritus. He died in 2000 at the age of 70. He was a history teacher when he was here at West De Pere High School, very good coach in basketball, and was a big leader in a history program where they acquired numerous artifacts from around the world that they then displayed as part of their history club. Dominic Gentilly.
Nan Workman was a West De Pere High graduate, class of 1910. She attended UW Stout and got a degree in home economics. She volunteered for a multitude of causes. She was the treasurer emeritus of the First Congregational Church, serving for over 50 years on the board. She was president of the church's women's volunteer group, which she helped found. Nan was active with the DAR and treasurer of the Heart Fund of Brown County. She also was on the board of the De Pere Historical Society, which annually hands out the Nan Workman Award given to the member of the society who does the most for the community. She died in 1984 at the age of 91. I'll finish. You're going to take
Gilford.
Gilford.
Yep. Yeah.
We also have another prize volunteer. If I can find it. There she is.
Go ahead.
Alida Ferris. In 1947, Alida and George opened up the West Side Restaurant on Main Avenue in West Pier, which they ran together until George died in 1956 at the age of 39. In 1962, she built the new Ferris wheel restaurant, which she sold 20 years later. Alida was very active in the community. She tutored for the Brown County Literacy Council and Civil Hop School. She volunteered her time at St. Boniface Church and Our Lady of Lourdes. She was on the boards for the De Pere Chamber of Commerce and the Historical Society. The Chamber named her the Outstanding Citizen of De Pere. The Rotarians honored her with Roses for the Living. The St. Norbert College gave her the Silver Knight Award. The De Pere Historical Society presented her with the Nan Workman Appreciation Award. But I think her most outstanding achievement was doing all of these things for De Pere while she single-handedly raised 6 kids. She died in 2010 at the age of 91. And McKim's going to finish up.
Very good. We're going to finish up here with our final individual. He's got to back up. Next individual we have, our final individual here, is Mr. Gilford Skinadore. Pictured right there on the far left. He was a star athlete over at Nicolet High School or West De Pere High School, particularly in football, but also competed in numerous other sports, track and basketball. Gilford is best known as probably being the leading scorer to this day in a single football game. There was a game in 1926 where they were playing Kewanee High School on a muddy field where he actually scored 66 points. West De Pere won the game 126-0. It was a different period of time, but he scored 18 touchdowns. He scored 8 touchdowns himself, and he kicked 18 extra points. He was 18 for 18. He did a little bit of a drop kick, and I believe it was Mr. Knapp Vansestein who later was interviewed in an article and indicated that he was one that never put out any more energy than he needed. And when he would do the little drop kick to kick the extra point, he just put enough energy in it to just get it to cross over the crossbar. So he's 18 for 18 on extra points, and he scored 8 touchdowns in a game where it was a muddy field. He went on to college. I'm not sure if he completed it or not, but when he came back to De Pere, he went into doing some painting. It was his career. He was a painter. And unfortunately, tragically got lead poisoning and passed away in 1941, I believe at the age of 41. But he was one heck of a great athlete, one of the finest that West De Pere ever had, and still to this day is the leading point scorer in a football game in the state of Wisconsin. Gilford Skinadore.
Look at the
box score.
The box score.
28 points in the first, 28 in the second, 28 in the third, and let's put in the reserves, and we'll rack up 42 points in the fourth. In the article, Nicolet did pretty much outweigh them, and I think by the fourth quarter, they were pretty much done. Obviously, today that would be not looked at in good regard, but in this particular time period, it was quite an accomplishment, particularly on a muddy field on a rainy day, that they were able to put that together. That'll pretty much close us up. Thank you for joining us. I hope this one worked out. Obviously, the next one we have sometime in April, we will go with a live program for all of you. Thank you again. Anything to add, Joe?
Glad you were here with us, and we'll see you in April.
Sounds good. Thanks very much.